Hello, Andy. This is my presentation on my genomics. And the reason I'm recording this is because I recognize that you're a super busy guy, and this is a very convenient format for you to watch, whenever you please. So without further ado, let's get started. Basically, I met this guy named Howard. And what you need to know about Howard is that he is practically the best in the world at understanding what consumers like about a product. And this might not seem very powerful at first, but if you understand your consumers better, you have more control over how they act. This could be the difference between a large population not buying a product and a large population buying a product. The way he was able to start doing this is by fundamentally shifting how marketing is approached, which sounds kind of crazy. Marketing is typically approached by separating people in demographics. So it would be old or young or man or woman or even a racial breakdown. However, Howard was able to separate groups of people based on the lens of a product, and these are called mindset segments. And the way he's able to figure out these mindset segments is through this really awesome math called mind genomics. Typically, mind genomics is super expensive for the big companies that actually pay for it. However, Howard has made this technology free to kids like me who want to help nonprofits like you. And this is where I come in. I really want to help. I love mind genomics, and I think it has a genuine place in the world to really help a lot of people. This comes to the opportunity for a precious child. If you're willing to invest a little bit of time, you get some world-class insights on what your consumers like about whatever objective you'd want. Now let's learn a little bit more about Howard. A great way to learn a lot more about Howard is through Malcolm Gladwell's TED Talk called Choice, Happiness, and Spaghetti Sauce. This goes into detail about the very beginnings of mind genomics and where it came from, which is very interesting. It was Prego in the 70s. However, Howard's technique hasn't just affected the spaghetti sauce industry. It hasn't even just affected the consumer packaged goods industry. It's actually affected manufacturing and financial services, maybe fast food or cosmetics. His clients list reads like a who's who of successful product companies. I mean, you can see here there's Ford and Microsoft and Discover and Coca-Cola and McDonald's and Pfizer and so many more. And typically, these companies do pay a lot of money for these insights. It just means that those insights are really that good for the companies. However, that could be very cost prohibitive to a nonprofit. So Howard has made this technology free. My colleague, Hollis Belger, actually, who's raised $500,000 for St. Jude's, used Mind Genomics for a fundraiser. I've been using Mind Genomics to help Teach for America increase their matriculation rates, and I'd hope to possibly help you for an objective or a question you want to answer. Let's learn a little bit more about a mind genomics study. So you'd start off with a 4x4, which I'm going to go into a little bit more depth later, and you plug that into mind genomics, and it tells you 4 super key things. First of all, it tells you the #1 single best message for everybody. So if you have a billboard on the side of a highway that has one message on it and you need to appeal to the most people possible, that is the message that you use. Second, you find those mindset segments that I was talking about a little bit earlier in the population, and you define what types of things they like about the product. Then you find the best messages for each one of those mindset segments. And then after that, you're able to assign new people into any of the typically 3 mindset segments in a study. The whole reason this opportunity exists is because Howard believes that adults overthink this stuff. He wanted to prove a point with mind genomics, that it was so simple to use that kids could do it. And he also wanted to help the world. He believed that nonprofits could really use his technology and it could better everybody for it. So he had an idea. Why doesn't he just let kids like me who have a lot of time help nonprofits and better the world in the process? And this also proves his point that mind genomics would be really easy to use. Now, Howard has worked with a couple nonprofits before, and I'd like to talk about Stand Up to Cancer. So they have a simulcast every year on ABC, CBS, and NBC, and they wanted to increase the amount of money made during that simulcast. So their approach was to run a mind genomics study and find the messages for those mindset segments and really emphasize those during the simulcast. Their effect? Well, it was $100 million raised in a single hour, which was a 35% increase in donations over the previous year. But you might be thinking about causal lift, or this could just be natural growth of the company. And this is where I'd like to talk about the American Heart Association. So they had a large downturn in donations during COVID, and they really wanted to increase them without making the people who didn't sign up for donation soliciting via email upset. So they were going to only remap half of their database using Mind Genomics and created those mindset segments and then tailored the messages towards those emailing groups. And they left the other half alone with the typical messages that they were already sending. And their result? A 42% increase in donations. Now, let's stop talking about other nonprofits here. Let's start talking about the opportunity for a precious child. And I believe it's much easier for anybody that I'm doing this presentation for to have an example to really understand how Mind Genomics works. So let's pretend that I'm working for you. First, we would want to find an objective for you to pick, whether that could be increasing cash donations or getting more volunteers, or maybe maximizing donations to just the giving tree. Now, I chose to make a 4x4 on the giving tree because it is a very big part of my life personally. We've donated to the giving tree every year, and I really enjoy shopping for kids in need and helping them make their Christmas. Now, that's why I'm going to be making a 4x4 for this. So after we've picked our objective, which is the giving tree, we're going to want to create 4 value categories, or 4 reasons why someone would want to donate to the giving tree. Now, this could be upholding the holiday spirit, or helping families in need, or maybe helping kids in those families in need, or maybe just to better society as a whole by donating to the giving tree. Now that we have these 4 categories, we can create 4 statements for the 4 categories, hence the name 4x4. Now, I'm just going to go through a couple important messages in each of these categories and some key distinctions that could help. So maybe giving back this holiday season versus sharing your Christmas spirit. Someone could react a lot more heavily to Christmas spirit positively or negatively compared to holidays. And we would find out when running the study. Next, maybe helping every child that doesn't have gifts during the holiday season versus every child should have a gift to open during the holiday season. That distinction in wording could really change the likeliness that someone is to donate. Next could be making society a better place. And I want to focus in on that second message. I kept that in there on purpose because, and this is what it says, it's today's community improvement equals tomorrow's tax write-off. Now, that could be seen as super abrasive to a large population of people. And what that would show up on the Excel sheet that Mind Genomics spits out is a decrease in the likeliness to donate. Now, we would change this message out and then run the study again and just keep iterating until we find the best messages. And then finally, I just want to note, in families in need, those are 4 very different ways to say the same core message. Now that we have our 4x4, we get to plug this into Mind Genomics, and this is actually really awesome. How Mind Genomics makes these studies is they actually create 3 statements from the 4 different categories and pair them up 24 times into a quick 5-minute survey. And the reason they do this is to really elicit a gut reaction from the consumer. Because if someone's on the highway looking at a billboard, they're not going to really think about that message. They're going to get immediately impacted by that message, and that will change their likeliness to donate. Now that we have this study, we're able to send it out to a service called BIMI who sends it out to a general population. And after those scores, typically 1 to 9 from those groups of 3 get put in, we get to calculate those results via the scoring engine, which tells us all the awesome things that we get to know. And typically generating the studies and calculating the results is a ton of money because that's where most of Howard's intellectual property is. However, he's made that free for us. And then secondly, there's executing the survey, which overall could be about $1,000 to $2,000, which could be very cost prohibitive for a kid like me wanting to help nonprofits. So I actually found last year something at my school called the Wolf Scholarship, which is a money grant for people to help better society as a general whole. And I was able to get this, and they thought it would be a wonderful fit, which means that these studies are completely free to me, which means they can be completely free to you. Now that we can have finally run the studies, we can kind of see the different groups of people that pop up. There could be people that really like the holiday spirit and they really want to uphold the holiday spirit. And there could be people that want to help kids and families in need. And then finally, there are people who just want to better society and then share Christmas spirit. So there can be mixes of people in these populations that like different aspects of things. And we would find that out once we generate the study. Now, what if you could think about, is there any objective that you might want answered? And if you found out the answer to that objective, how might you use it? Could it be like changing the wording in the email or changing the wording on a website? And really, if I were to work for you, all I'd be asking is that you actually use these insights, because I believe they're valuable, and it kind of would be a waste of time for everybody if you just push it aside afterwards. But if you think there's an objective that you could have legitimately answered by Mind Genomics, that would be absolutely awesome, and I would be very happy to work for you. Anyways, that is the whole presentation. Thank you very much for listening this long, and I hope to hear back from you. Oh, goodbye.